Do you want interview today and I'll do
Sure.
chat, or do you want me to interview and you do chat?
Sure, I can, either way, I'll do the interview today if you want.
That's fine. Jenna called me and she's like, so what are we talking about? I'm like, oh, girl, we'll help you. We'll take
Exactly.
you through this.
Yeah.
Nothing too hard, I think.
This
So,
is supposed to be light and casual and just fun over coffee. So
yeah, and the point is ultimately to help, people out there kind of, how did you do it? It's how did you get to where you are, so it helps everybody else out.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I guess the first thing is to tell us a little bit about yourself pre-real estate.
So I am originally from Eden, New York. It's a small farm town south of Buffalo. And I grew up on a farm. And I showed livestock competitively growing up through 4-H. So when I went to college in Brockport. And then I never left. So I've been in Rochester equal, if not a little bit longer than where I grew up. So after college, I got a job at CGI Communications. I was in marketing. So I was traveling 2 weeks a month, every month, and I met Jeremy, and he has a real estate background. Different day, different story. And when we got more serious, I realized that I couldn't continue to travel like I did and still have a family and all that good stuff, because I was gone for half the year. So he was like, you should get into real estate. You're already a realtor. You're prospecting, going on appointments, you're closing, cold calling. So I got licensed in 2015.
Okay.
And I went full time right out of the gate. And that's how I started real estate.
Okay. And there's a handful of you out there, you and Anthony and Susan, that went from 0 to 120, super quick, right? So I think everybody's like, how did you do that? What did you do that first year to grow so quickly?
Yeah, so my first year, I think the key for me is that I went full time with it, I committed full time, and it was a make or break, because I had student loans, I had an apartment, I had bills, and when you're forced to figure it out, you figure it out. So, I ate rice, and you know what I mean? So I grinded for the first year. And Jeremy had his company, so I was very much so on my own. I did coaching. I'm a graduate of the coaching program at KW, and just did the uncomfortable things. I went on a lot of expired. So that's how I really built my business, was with expired listings.
Okay.
Because I'm not from here, so I didn't have oh, hey, honey, my friend from soccer club has a listing. I didn't have that. So I had to prospect. So I did a lot of expired cold calling and expired appointments.
Okay. And you found that with enough time and effort into it, that yielded results for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of follow-up. It's a lot of follow-up. Your systems have to be on point, because it's all the tracking. You could call someone today and they say, call me back in 6 months. You call them back in 3 months. If you call them in 6 months, they already listed with somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. So having systems set up was important, because I didn't have that database to call into just yet. Well, I thought I didn't. And then once you start peeling back layers, you realize you do have a bigger database.
More than you think you do. But that's actually good to hear, right? Because so many people think that people who are successful early did it because they came with this big package of people ready to just throw the business. And that's not always necessarily, probably not often, necessarily true.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I did cap in my first year, but I capped on the last day of my reset, and I scrambled. I picked a check up, and some people were like, why worry about capping? You're not going to make 100% on everything. Don't you want to sandbag that to cap earlier next year? And I'm like, no, because it was a goal for me to cap, and I wanted to make sure I capped.
Yeah.
This sounds a lot like Jeffrey. I see that he is on with us.
Yeah, he's in the mad rush to do that as well.
Yeah.
So expireds, and did you do FSBOs as well?
Not as much. I had because in 2015 there was far more expires than there are now.
Yeah.
So I mostly focused on expireds. Okay. Open houses. I did a lot of open houses for other agents. Leveraged their success to help build mine. And I just try to let everyone know that I sold real estate as much as possible. And then, because even when we have agents that join our team that are new agents that have not been in real estate before, I always tell them that there's a lead time where people think of you as Jenna as the marketing salesperson, not as Jenna the realtor. So you have to let people know that you are a real estate agent while providing value, not just saying, not the braggy post, but saying like, hey, I have a new listing, or hey, this is the market, hey, this is the interest rates. Do you have any questions about refinancing? So providing value, letting people know that you're a realtor so that you become top of mind. Because, you know, you can compare it to like Pepsi and Coke. Everyone knows who Pepsi and Coke is, but they still advertise because it's being top of mind. It's not name recognition for them anymore. It's being top of mind.
Right. Now, when you go or are trying to keep top of mind, do you have any avenues that you think work better than others? Phone calls, Facebook, emails, or just all of them?
Yeah, so because now we have a full-blown database, and we find that emails, people sometimes have filters in and they go right to spam. So emails, for me personally, are not as effective as a text message. If I'm going to send something written, I'd rather send it as a text message like, hey, how are you? Or happy home anniversary. Because not everyone likes picking up the phone and talking. But if it is like a big moment, like if I see someone on Facebook had a baby, I'm going to call them and say congratulations, not send them a text message.
Right.
So calling like that, you know, we did a sunshine drop off to our entire database. It was a big production. Like we had yellow bags all over my house, and the whole team divided and conquered and dropped off these bags to people. It cost us maybe $4 to make the bags, and we got more people saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much, this meant so much to me, than when we threw big client events. So it doesn't always have to be a high dollar amount that you're connecting with people on, and it doesn't have to be, you know, every single month you do something, but just providing value to them and letting them know that you're there and thinking of them. I think that those are the most important things. Being a person, really.
Being a human.
Yeah.
Because
when you try and be too salesy with people, when you try and say, I did this, and this week, to me, I think that makes people think that you're too busy to help them.
Right. Absolutely. And it sounds like, so it sounds to me like you love the texts, you drop bys, you do some pop bys, and then calls if it's appropriate, but you don't make an effort to call every quarter like sometimes people do.
So we do. We in our system it's logged, so we do make an effort to call people quarterly, but I don't forget to call them for those special moments.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How long did it take before you grew into a team?
So I got licensed in 2015, and in 2016 we started the team. So Jeremy left the company that he had moved here to start in 2016. He came on with me, and then we hired Shay, who's still with us today, in 2016. And then we brought on our first buyer's agent. So we grew the team pretty fast in 2016.
Okay. And then as far as what are the roles and responsibilities of everybody? Obviously you're the rainmaker.
Yeah, so I'm the rainmaker. Jeremy never really sold real estate. He's licensed, but he worked on systems and, you know, things like that. He's now a full-blown maps coach, so he's busy all day long. So he's still a part of the team. Like he's a numbers guy, so he'll, you know, once a month he'll run like our numbers meetings now, but that's really it. We joke that he just, you know, doesn't do anything, but he does. So he tracks all of the numbers for the business. He works with Shay to do our P&L. So Shay started off as our executive assistant. She is now our listing coordinator and director of operations. So she processes our payroll, she manages our listings, she makes sure our healthcare insurance is paid, work comp is in order. So she does all that stuff. She also manages our other in-office staff that's not a 1099. So all of our employees she manages as well. So she's responsible to do the one-on-ones. Maria is our transaction coordinator. So she handles everything from the day it goes under contract to close. We have Laura, who's our marketing girl, and she does both. So her title is called Director of Business Development. So she manages our lead flow and makes sure that the leads are being processed. She tracks our ROI, our return on investment. And she also does like our social media posts, our marketing campaigns, and she manages our database.
Right.
Yep. And then we have Claire and Jim, who are agents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And are most of them full-time?
Everyone's full-time.
Everybody's full-time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in leverage. Obviously, the P&L has to make sense. We do follow the MREA model for our profitability with that goal of being 36% profitable. Our cost of sale when you're operating a team is actually commissions that are paid. So we are okay with our cost of sale being a little bit higher so that I have leverage. Because that's one of the biggest things is I don't want to have to work 80 hours a week anymore because I want to be able to be a mom. So the team having leverage is more important to me than having a lower cost of sale.
Yeah, absolutely. And choices that you make, right? And you have the volume to be able to do it. So I would be interested in kind of like, because this is kind of for newer agents, like first 2 years, Jenna May, what did your day look like? And then now, Jenna May, leverage Jenna May, what is your day look like?
So I don't know if anyone's ever heard the star real estate agent where you start your day here, then you're like, oh shoot, I got to go drop off this lockbox. Oh, I'm going to go have lunch with this bank that called me. Oh, I'm going to go have coffee with this attorney that wants to work with me. Oh, I got to go over here and go to this class. And then next thing you know, you've been all over the county, but you haven't actually accomplished anything to help move your business forward.
I think that's my everyday.
Yeah. Yeah. So you end up making a giant star and you covered a lot of surface area, but you haven't actually got anything done. So that's a huge time waste. So when people talk about time blocking, it's to prevent that, because if you want to have your day planned. So for the first year, I was very much so running around like a chicken with my head cut off and like trying to make things easier for buyers. Like, oh, don't worry, I'll drop your deposit check off to me and I'll bring it to the listing agent's brokerage. Why did I ever offer to do that? Like, providing high quality service does not mean literally doing everything for your client. It's giving them guidance. So year 2, when we hired Shay, I still had that mentality of it's easier for me to do it than to explain someone how to do it. So it took time to offload things, but now I get a listing, Shay does the paperwork for me. She sends it off to the client. Like, I don't have them sign anything when I'm there. Maybe a letter of intent if it's a competitive listing, but she sends out all the paperwork. I don't even know what's getting posted on social media. Laura just does it. So empowering people to actually perform in their roles is what allows me to leverage so that I am not doing the star real estate agent, that I can focus on things like meeting with sellers, doing buyer consultations, training our agents, doing one-on-ones. So I'm not doing little tasks like checking an attorney with mortgage commitment, things like that. So just being more purposeful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate that the team does hold me accountable, because I will sometimes go back to, I'll just do it. And they're like, Jenna, let me do my job. So they do a really good job. And they also bail me out when I'm a hot mess. Sometimes we have a system and I get so busy, I forget to follow the system, and they take the job back, they fix my mess, and then they move on.
It's good to have support like that.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, in the last year and a half or so, you had a baby, and that probably, changed things quite a bit. How do you find that changed things for you?
So I used to, whenever someone said, can I see a house this day? Or can you meet me here? Or can you do this? Or I need this. I used to drop whatever I was doing and do it. And learning to tell people I can't do that now, but I can do it at this time really empowered me, because there are no emergencies in real estate. And even though I told myself that, I see Jim on here, I would tell Jim that all the time. It's easier to say it than to live it. But when it became more important for me to put my son to bed at 7 p.m. and I could tell people, hey, I'll write that offer for you. I'm going to get it to you at 9 p.m. after I'm done being a mom.
Right.
And people respect it because you're clear with your expectations.
Okay.
Yeah. So gaining back my time is the best thing that happened.
Okay. Did you find it challenging, or were you kind of prepared for it?
Well, I had him 3 weeks early, so I was not prepared for him to come when he did. But I'm very lucky to have the team that I have, the support. And not everyone has to have a team or grow a team or be on a team. You can find leverage in other ways, like with the market center and virtual assistants. There's other ways to find leverage, but I was very fortunate to have the leverage of my team to help me out so that everyone stayed in their lanes, they stayed in their roles, and they perfected them. So that's what allowed me to carve out time for mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a question here. So you've been with Keller Williams since getting licensed. Why did you choose KW?
That's a great question. So my husband was a Keller Williams agent out in California. So he got licensed right out of high school, and he had met Chuck and really respected and liked Chuck. So when I got licensed, KW was the only place that I talked to. I'm from Buffalo, so I was very familiar with like Hunt and Realty USA. But when I spoke with Chuck and he talked to me about the culture, the education, that's what was very important to me, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know anyone. And I'm like, okay, I need to be at a place that's going to help support my growth. And I felt like KW was a great fit.
Okay. What do you think that KW has that you find the most helpful in growing your business?
Right now, it's the technology. So we are, thank you to Laura, we are fully in Command now. It's the only CRM that we're using. So we got rid of Brivity that we were using. We were using Sync, then we transitioned into Brivity. So now we're just working solely out of Command. You know, there's a few things that we're working through and getting used to, but that allowed us to cut, I think, what was it, like $1,600 a month from our operating expenses. So that's helped us grow our business the most right now, because that's helping improve our profitability, and we can reinvest that money into other avenues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that,
yeah.
So that's the biggest thing that's helping us right now.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And it's good to hear that you actually feel that Command is ready, right? To have left Brevity and
yeah. Because no CRM is perfect. Every CRM we've ever tried and ever used, there's things that you go, oh my gosh, I wish it did this. And it's like anything, nothing's perfect. You just have to adapt it into your business and work through it. And we know that they're constantly working on Command, and they listen to us, where if you put in a ticket, they respond to it. It's not like some other places where you put in the ticket and you don't hear anything for 3 months.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
And we do like how everything's streamlined, where we can put a lead in, then they can follow it through the process. When it goes under contract, Maria or Shay can take it over, and then they submit it to compliance all through Command. So it eliminates multiple services that we had for different things.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's interesting. I have to say, as an individual agent, I know how it works, but then from a team standpoint, I can see, because you're all looking at the same thing, and you know where you're looking to pick things up and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, and I do think Command is going to be tremendous for individual agents too, because it will help you keep things more organized, because you can load your documents right into Command. So it's going to help you keep track of everything, and it's going to provide you with a platform that teams had, that a CRM that's very expensive, for free. So I think that if you're not using Command and you're an individual agent, take the effort to really dive into it, because it will also help you track your business with your financials as well.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of Command? Sorry.
Yep. What would you recommend doing first in Command? If you were a new agent just getting started, what's the first part of it to conquer? Because I know that to a lot of people, it seems way overwhelming, and
the first thing that we did, the very first thing is, well, if you don't have this, it's the first thing you should do regardless, is get your database together. If you don't have a database, freaking put a database together. What are you doing? Like, that's literally how you're going to make your money. And challenge yourself to put new people into the database every week. Shoot for one a week. And then, just start somewhere. So get your database together and get it into Command. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when you are actively setting appointments or working with someone, use the opportunities, because the opportunities will help you keep track of your pipeline. I think that those are the two most important things to start with. Don't worry about the checklist. Don't worry about, the drip campaigns. Just get in there and get your database in there and get your opportunities in there to track your pipeline.
Okay.
Good advice.
Because it'll help you understand what your business is doing. Like,
right.
Do you, in 3 months from now, are you buying steaks or are you rubbing 2 pencils together? Like, you have to know where your business is going.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting question, Jenna May. Like, because I'm talking to my coach sometimes. They're like, okay, well, you need 2 more, listings this month. Like, how are you going to get them? Like, do you guys ever run into that? Like, if you had to get a listing next week, what would you do? What's the first thing you would do?
We joke that Jim has to list his house.
Just keep it up.
But it's very true, where it's like, who do we know that needs to list their house? And the short sight is who's going to list their house this week.
Right.
Well, not necessarily who's going to list this house this week, but who do we know that's going to list their house in 3 months? Let's get them to get a commitment to sell sign. Let's get them to sign the listing paperwork. Like, get somebody signed today, even if they're going to list in 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you don't know any people that you think are going to list, like, how do you start how do you find those people? You're going back to your expireds? You're going back
you can go to expired, but reaching out to your database and just say, hey, and come from a place of curiosity and care. Just call them and say, hey, how's everything going? As you probably heard, the inventory is very low. I have buyers that are looking in these communities. Do you happen to know anyone that's looking to buy or looking to sell?
Mm-hmm.
Don't just say, hey, are you looking to sell your house? Say, I have buyers that are looking for X, Y, and Z. Do you know anyone that's looking to sell? So that's a good way to call your database.
Because it allows them to be helpful to you and not feel so much like you're asking of them.
Exactly. Because you're not asking them for a referral in that question. You're asking them, do they know anyone that's looking to sell?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Because you legitimately have buyers. Or you could say, hey, I'm trying to help someone out in my office. They posted in our Facebook group that they have an out-of-town client that's coming into town. I know that you live in this community. Do you happen to know someone that's looking to make a move that I could reach out to before this client leaves?
Right.
Use other people's needs to reach out to your database.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we have to be very careful right now cold calling people.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
And speaking of, so back to COVID and how that has changed things. Have you found anything in this new world that you think that are going to be better for us?
So every single one of our listings is going to have a virtual tour now moving forward. It's more expensive. Like, we're spending a lot more money on the marketing of our properties, but it'll eliminate some of the casual browsers that are coming through. So we make sure that we tell our sellers, like, hey, listen, we're spending more money now to market you than ever, but it's to keep you safe and to limit the number of people that are just parading through your home. It also sets a standard of that's how we market our properties, is that we do go above and beyond, where we're not doing the bare minimum, because we know that homes are selling with 16 offers. But we're still doing the video, even though it's costing us more money, to make sure that we're not wasting our sellers' time.
Yeah. Speaking of the 16 offer scenario, have you guys changed your approach at all? I know there was a big Facebook thread. I think Bob posted it the other day about, like, maybe we should just start listing higher because this is crazy and stupid and we're all irritated.
So one of the things that we do is we try and strategically price properties. Now, if you have a unique property where you might only get 1 or 2 offers, keep that strategy the same. But if you have a ranch in Greece or a center entrance colonial in Penfield schools, that's $275, bump it up. We're just bumping it up slightly, $5 or $10 grand, because you might eliminate that many people that's the max of their budget. Because some people are dreamers right now that they're like, I know $275 is the max of our budget, but let's just give it a shot. And it's like, no. So if you do like 280 or 285, you're eliminating some people, because if the house is going to sell for 285, it's going to sell for 285 at 275.
Right.
The market will bear it. So where I think that thread got a little convoluted is when people were misinterpreting listing them higher for listing it 20, 30,000 higher. No, that's not it. Just do it 5 or 10 higher.
Right.
So that you're, and obviously if you're at, the 100 mark, don't do 110 because that's a different buyer, but do 105. Just slightly bump the price up. And one thing that I also do too, not everyone does it, but if a buyer's agent calls me and says, hey, Jenna, I have a buyer that's interested in writing an offer. How many offers do you have? If I have like cash, 20 grand over asking price, no inspection, like I tell them, like, listen, we have a significantly over asking price offer or something like that, like I'll tell people, because I don't want them to waste their time. We don't want to just collect a bunch of offers.
Right.
Just plugging in here.
And it is interesting. I'm finding more and more buyers are getting wary. I feel like we're turning the tide where there's like just the other day I had a client and they were so excited because the house popped on at 325 and they wanted to see it, and then it immediately got rebumped to 350 and they were like, ugh, I don't even care anymore because I would have paid 350, but because it's listed at 350, it's not going to go for 350 and I'm out. And I was, it's just.
Yeah. And that goes into being an agent and looking at the property and saying, listen, I think that this house is priced appropriately for the market. Like, yes, could there be multiple offers on this? Maybe, but I think that this is a good value. And if you love this house, let's write the 350, because their heart's going to get crushed whether it's listed at 225 or 250.
Right.
So
that is the exact conversation that we had, but just watching their hearts like sink, because I don't think they believe that any house is going to sell for what it's actually listed for.
And that's why I think that as an industry, we do need to get a little bit more real with how we're pricing properties, because it's not going to do us any good if 6 months from now we're in the same market that we are, because buyers are getting burnt out. And we're getting burnt out.
Right.
I don't, as much as I love writing contracts, I don't want to write 18 offers for somebody.
It's true.
Yeah. And the argument of there is a benefit to pricing something to get multiple offers. Yes, I 100% agree with that. But just bump it slightly, because if you're bumping at $5,000 or $10,000, you're not putting it into a different pricing bracket.
Right. We have here, what's your opinion of backup offers in this market?
So I think backup offers are great. And most buyers that are in the backup position are willing to be in a backup position. So I take them, but just make sure you get it in writing, because that makes it real versus the verbal. Hey, do you want to be a backup offer? Yeah, sure. Okay. Sounds good. Like, that doesn't hold anyone to anything.
Right.
So, but when you do that, you do have to put a timeline on it where you say, you're in a backup position for 2 weeks until we get through any contingencies that could pause it, but the buyer has the opportunity to exit the contract. Putting in the ability for them to exit the contract if they find something else is important, because that will encourage the buyer to sign it.
Right. Okay. Are you finding, what are your opinion on escalation clauses?
I love them.
I do too, but some people hate them.
Yeah, I always ask the agent before I write an offer, give them a call and ask them, what terms are they looking for? Is there a specific closing date? And I do ask, is your seller willing to look at an escalation clause? I just ask it, because you also want to make sure that the agent knows how to present an escalation clause. Most do at this point, but just to make sure that they're willing to do it. There is a thought that if someone's willing to pay $275 for something that's listed at $225, that you stand a better chance if they say submit your best and final, that you get that $275. And at the same token, there's no guarantee for that either, because I've had buyers that say, well, we would pay that much, but we don't know if we really want to pay that much. So the escalation clause allows people to offer more without the fear of overpaying.
Right.
In their mind.
So that you only paid it because somebody else was out there.
Right. Also felt the value. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think. So new people out there, what would be the first thing you said? Go after your database, right?
Yep. Database is everything. If you're not connecting with your database, you need to today.
Right.
And everyone has more of a database than you think.
Yeah, what do you consider your database? Because that's another thing. Like, well, is it the people that love me? Is it the postman? Like, what's it?
If you called someone and said, "Hey, this is Jenna May, how are you?" They know who you are.
Period.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you handle people who are working with other agents, or like that they have a relative? Like, do you push them off, or do you kind of like keep them on a drip and don't assume anything?
Well, if they're like, "Hey, that's awesome. I know you're in real estate, but I'm working with someone," then so we have different buckets in our database. We would put them in a lower bucket, but you ask permission. Like, oh, that's fantastic. I don't want to step on any toes. We do have, a monthly newsletter that we send out. Do you want to be in our database?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you ask for permission and they say yes, you can put them in there.
Right.
Because you're not actively soliciting them. You're providing a newsletter or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I've run into the scenario in the past where you assume something, you assume because they know that person that that's who they would choose. And
right. There's some people that don't want to use a friend because they don't want to have that line crossed.
Right.
So that does happen.
Yeah. And I think we can make the mistake of making assumptions on their behalf and, you know, and just be like, I'm going to leave them alone, you know?
Yep,
I had a friend the other day who has family in the business and called me and I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, you know, and I wasn't marketing to them. And I think, you know what, I need to remember those sorts of things. So
yeah, exactly. Because until somebody tells you no, leave them in there.
Yeah.
Don't assume.
What do you think sets you apart from everybody else?
I try and be as real as possible. Like, I swear, I show up like this to appointments sometimes. Like, I'm just a real person. Like, I don't try and be this like perfect real estate agent. Like, I am a hot mess sometimes, and that's okay. I just try and be a person.
Yeah.
Because then when you're talking to them about like, listen, I understand this is super stressful. They know that you're appealing to them as a friend and as like a supervisor and not just this sleazy salesperson.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as your business, if you had to describe it in 4 words or what you want people to think of when they think of Jenna May's real estate, what are the most important characteristics?
Integrity, honesty, educated, and professional.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which I certainly think everybody thinks. It's funny how, like, you know, because you were saying, you're like, I just show up like this. And to some people, professional is like looking the part all the time, right? And to you, it's like, no, like they know I'm good at what I do and I don't have to look the part all the time.
Right.
Because I prove it in other ways, right?
Exactly. Like if I look like this and someone's like, oh my gosh, this is my dream house. Can you show this to me? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing yard work and I don't have time to get changed before that. Like, they want to see the house more than they want to see me. Like, it's not the Jenna show. So like if it's the time that works for them and I'm coming from wherever, let's say I'm driving home from Buffalo and I spent the night at my sister's house. And by the time I get to Rochester, it would be the time of the appointment. They're going to get me how I am because they care more about getting into the house. Now, do I try and not look like this? Absolutely. But if it's a one-off, like I don't stress about it.
Right. Well, this is a good question. Kim, do you have a niche market? And do you believe that people should tailor, I'm adding to your question, and do you believe that people should tailor towards a niche market or just kind of be more broad-based?
So I personally don't have success with investors. Like I can list like a 2-unit and have success with that. I don't enjoy working with investors, so that's not something that I focus on. But there's tons of people that do and they have great success and they love it. So that's just not what we focus our energy on. We're very much so single family residential. I love unique properties. I love expireds. I really like the challenge of selling unique properties that aren't the cookie cutter home that everyone loves. They're definitely more work, but I love working with unique properties. So as far as a specific facet, not really, but mostly just single family residential homes.
Yeah, in any area. You don't like say, we want to be known for like priests or whatever.
No. So just naturally it evolved where we had a lot of east side business. Jim actually lives on the west side. So it's percolated through, and we've also seen that happening with the cost of homes going so high on the east side, where a lot of people are coming into wanting to move on to the west side as well. Like, we've seen a huge spike in the amount of people that want to be in Gates and Chili. So we've seen our business expand to the west side just because of the price of homes going up so much.
Right. That's interesting. And it makes sense, right? If you're kind of like running out of places to buy on the east side, you know?
Yeah. So, and I sell business in Buffalo too. So it's case by case. Like, listings are obviously a lot easier than buyers out there, but I have friends and family out there, so I will take a listing out there.
Right. Okay. Any other questions out there, guys? think most of my questions. Anything you want to tell people that you just wish that you had known when you were starting?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give someone is to become an expert in contracts and make sure that you know how to protect your client and also help your client win. Don't be lazy with the contract. Make sure that all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed and you're hitting dates and deadlines, because that's the number one way that things start to get hairy. And don't be afraid to have the difficult conversation. Like if something bad happened or something was your fault, take the accountability and just be honest with them.
Right. Oh, another question. Do you do a client appreciation events, which I think you mentioned that you do?
Yeah, we do. We do a Red Wings game. That one's super fun. We do like a pumpkin patch at Wickham Farms every year. And we also do brunch with Santa. That one's wildly successful. And hopefully we can still have this one. Obviously, all of our other events where we were going to do a Kentucky Derby party this year, that got canceled. Our Red Wings game got canceled. So we'll see how the other two events go, but we try to do 4 a year.
Do you find that you get good participation on those types of events?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. You have to make sure that you're marketing them correctly. And one of the biggest things with a client event is it's not necessarily the event that's important, it's the contacts around the event.
Right.
Touching everyone in your database, inviting them to come, and then following up with the people that came and thanking them for coming. Because you can get 3 or 4 touches just setting up and executing a database event.
Right. And are you trying to ask for a referral during that window of time, or are you just kind of letting the event? You are.
Yeah, we do try to ask for referrals, because if you don't ask, then you don't get them. And also we ask for reviews a lot during that time.
Oh, okay. That's another thing. Do you have a favorite source of reviews? Because I think reviews can be frustrating, because Zillow, they have to log in and that's a pain, you know?
Yeah. So we have struggled with that, because it's like when you ask someone to give a review, most people naturally just go to Facebook. So we have a ton of Facebook reviews, which is great, but it's like, how do we get people to go to other platforms? So when the property was it closes, Maria sends out a link to everyone with like all of the routing on there, so they can just click the button and it takes them to our page. But now we have a landing page off of our website that says leave us a review. We just send that link and then they can click into there, and it drills down, so when someone clicks on the Zillow link, it takes them directly to Zillow where to post it.
Okay, so do you skirt around then having them log into Zillow? Because that's
they will log in, because when they click on it, most people are logged in on whatever platform. Because if you send it to them in an email link and they click on it on their phone, they're probably already logged into the app on their phone.
Right. Okay. And so you just kind of spread it out. It stinks because you can't get like one review and then post it all the different places. It's like it has to be on that platform. Yeah. And then you have to decide where you want the reviews to end up being, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you can tell someone like, hey, you know, could you do me a favor? Could you put this on to Zillow? Because just be honest with people. Like, they know that it's to help build your business, and just say, you know, if you thought I did a good job for you, would you mind giving me a review so you can help build my business? Yeah, I'm very fortunate that Maria and Shay drive a lot of that for us. So they do a really good job getting the reviews for us.
Awesome.
I think I have all my questions. Anybody else? Last minute. All right, I think we're good. Anything?
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
I don't have anything.
All right, sounds great. Thanks so much, Jenna.
Bye, guys.
This is awesome. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.